This is a presentation of NorthEast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. This is Keith Engel, and you are watching Start It Up on NorthEast Streaming Sports. And I'm joined again today by Jamie Paggs, the Philly sports guy. Good morning, Jamie. How are you?
Good morning, Keith. I'm doing wonderfully.
You're probably excited with the Phillies, as we'll touch on in a little bit, with an exciting win over the Braves yesterday. Interesting day in Major League Baseball. Not a lot of games, but the leaders had a tough go of it, some of them. So we'll touch on the scoreboard and talk about the standings a little bit. I want to say congratulations, and I'll get that out to the Hall of Famers, and we'll get some other news around Major League Baseball, the NHL, the NFL. Camps are opening. So stuff's starting to happen here as we move through the dog days of summer. And hopefully we all survive them, because this country seems to be like about 115 degrees everywhere you go. A little cooler here today, by the way, so a little refreshing.
Well, that's because it rained yesterday for you, right?
Yeah, we had some good storms come through, and actually I have a window open today for the first time in like a week, so thank God.
Well, we did not get any of that rain, so it's still hot.
All right, well, hopefully it's coming south, we hope, so you guys will get it soon. Let's jump in. Let's take a quick look at the scoreboard. As I said, not a lot of games, but we'll go through the scoreboard here. The Reds walloped the Marlins yesterday. The Marlins trying to stay in this wild card race. They're only 5.5 back, but it seems like every time I look, they're losing 2 games in a row. I'm not sure how they're staying that close. I guess it's because everybody else is struggling ahead of them. But they lose 11-2 yesterday. Jonathan India hits his first career grand slam for the Reds, and they went 11-2. And they're not going anywhere, but they're fighting hard as they go along. As we said earlier, the Phillies with an exciting win and a comeback victory over the Braves, who they're trying to keep pace with in the National League East. They went 6-4. And again, an important series. I think there's 2 more games in this series. They need to beat these teams ahead of them. They're 9 games, I think, still back of the Mets, 7 games behind the Braves, and also a half a game behind the Cardinals in the wild card race. I'm sure you have a couple thoughts on this game.
Bryson Stott coming through again. Every time you think that the game might be over, and just he's not the right guy to be up to the plate, and all of a sudden he hits a home run, and it's like a shock. It's because you don't expect it to happen, and It does happen, and then it's, whoa, how about that? So kudos to him. That's his second game-winning home run, although this one was not a walk-off. This was in the 8th.
Well, it's always fun when you get guys you don't expect contributing, and that's what makes baseball fun, because on any given night, you never know who it's going to be. We know it won't be Joey Gallo for the Yankees, but other than that, we don't never know who it will be.
Well, I've been thinking about it, because I've been hearing you talk about Joey Gallo now for months.
I have a problem with Gallo.
Wouldn't it be like really appropriate if he was the one that came through in August and September, and like just all of a sudden started to get a little hot?
He could shut my mouth, I suppose, yes. I don't expect him to be in a position to do it, though, because I don't expect him to be here in August and September, but we'll see. Some rumors about him and Andrew Benettini from Kansas City on that topic, but as I explained to the person who sent me that rumor, Benettini's not getting traded to the American League East because he's not vaccinated and he can't play in Toronto. So there's no contender in the East that's going to trade for Andrew Benettini from Kansas City that I can see. Because obviously, if you've got any games in Toronto during the regular season, it kills you, and it might kill you in the playoffs. So I do not see that happening. As a quick,
and why would Kansas City want to take Joey Gallo? And let me ask, was Joey Gallo good before this?
Joey Gallo he wasn't this bad, but he was a 200 hitter, 210 hitter. He wasn't a lot better than this. Home runs, he had a lot of home runs. He was the classic 3 outcome player: strikeout, home run, or walk. That was his game. So if you love baseball today, you love Joey Gallo, except right now he's really only got like 2 outcomes most of the time, strikeout or walk. And he's a decent defensive player, and a good guy in a clubhouse. But I just need a guy hitting more than 166.
Well, and my other question, my caveat to that is that I like, well, I mean, why did they trade for him in the first place? I mean, did they think he was better than he is? And you know, if he's such a pleasure to have in the clubhouse,
Yeah,
and everybody's afraid that things might change, and he's getting paid a tremendous amount of money, I assume, right? He's like the
absolutely.
Schwarber. He's getting Schwarber type money.
I would say yes. He's a free agent after this year too, by the way. So whoever takes him, it's going to be short term. But he's about Ron Schwarber money. Look at the Yankees last year were very right-handed in a left-hand hitting stadium, which is a problem. That's why they went after Rizzo and Gallo in the first place at the trade deadline last year. I didn't like that part of the trade just because I knew Joey Gallo's history and the strikeouts. It's either it was all or bust. Not unlike a lot of guys in the game today, but I just never liked the trade. I love the Rizzo trade because he brings intangibles to in a leadership role that Gallo doesn't, in my mind. So again, it's just been a bust. And on top of it all, as I hear from my Ranger fan all the time, the prospects the Yankees traded, which we thought were all middling prospects, some of them are helping the Rangers now and will in the future because they're all almost major league ready. Some of them are in the majors now. And, this could be a trade that haunts the Yankees for a lot of years. We'll see.
Well, and my last question on this before we move on, is it the fact that he's in New York that's the problem?
It's entirely possible. New York's like no other. I shouldn't say like no other place. Philly's got it. Every place has got its picadillos, big cities, right? But New York's tough. It's just like Philly's tough. And, you get going bad and get on the fans' bad side. It's hard to recover depending on your own personality. And I don't get the sense that Joey Gallo's got the personality to be able to, fight through the adversity that he's been in the middle of for nearly a year now. So
okay.
He may go somewhere and thrive, and start hitting home runs again. I don't see it, whether it's ever going to happen here. Look at Matt Carpenter in a third of the at-bats has better numbers, RBIs, home runs, almost as many hits, more doubles than Joey Gallo has in a third of the at-bats. That's all you need to know about Joey Gallo's performance. So, anyway, that's my Joey Gallo meltdown for the day. Thank you, Pegs. I guess I brought it upon myself. So,
but hey, listen, I'm so used to hearing about Joey Gallo, and I love it when somebody's crying about the Yankees.
Yes, thank you. It's me. That's my biggest gripe. It's hard to gripe when you played as well as the Yankees have, but they can be better. And I worry about the postseason, as I keep saying. This is all wonderful, but the postseason comes. The holes in Joey Gallo and Aaron Hicks bats are going to hurt the Yankees. All right,
we'll see.
It's over there. Back to the scoreboard. The scrappy Orioles remain 3.5 back in a wild card. They win 6-1 over the Rays, who still have a wild card wrapped up. They got a 4-run fifth inning in this game, and they win it, as I said, 5-1. Good grief, my glasses are terrible this time of day. 5-1 over the Rays. The Red Sox trying to right their ship. They're on the outside of the playoffs looking in right now. They went 3-1 over the Guardians, who are really tied with the Red Sox right now in this wild card race. 3 games, I believe, behind the Mariners. The Padres starting to reel. They're falling double digits, 11.5, I believe, behind the Dodgers now after a 12-4 loss to the Tigers. So some bad teams beat some pretty good teams yesterday, as we said. Let's get down here. I shouldn't have said what I said because now I've got to skip to the bottom. The Nationals beat the Dodgers 4-1 yesterday in LA. The Dodgers rolling, and the Juan Soto and the Nationals cooled them off 4-1 yesterday. Who did we mention? The Astros losing to the A's 7-5. Tony Kemp homers and has a 2-run double in this game. And the Athletics, as I said, beat the Astros, who still have a big lead over the Mariners, 7-5. And some other scores around the league, the Cubs, they've won a few in a row too. I believe they've got a 3-game winning streak. Actually,
4 now.
5. It's actually 5. Yeah.
How about that?
3-2 over the Pirates. The Royals 7-0 over the Angels in a game that probably nobody was watching. The Brewers get shut out by the Rockies. They continue their up and down season. Freeland sparkled in this game for the Rockies. Rockies remain on the outside of this wild card race, but that's, we talked, I think, somewhere last week about the cutoff. Even though they're hanging around that 5-6 game mark most of the time, I do not feel like the Rockies are in this race. So
I agree.
Yeah, great. It's kind of an illusion, I guess. The Diamondbacks beat the the Giants. Giants are reeling with 5 straight losses. They've fallen to 500. They're hanging in that wild card race, only 2.5 games back. Another team I expected to see further back when I looked at it today, the way they're playing, but they lose 7-0 to the Diamondbacks. The Mariners playing some good baseball. They did cut their lead behind the Astros to, I think, 9 games at one point during their hot streak.
And then they got swept by the Astros.
And then they got swept, and it's back up to 12. So they're not going to win that division. They're probably not going to make a run at it, but this will be a team to reckon with probably in October. And if Juan Soto gets traded at the break and not in the offseason, not the break, but before the deadline, which is only a week away or less than a week away now, don't rule out the Mariners as a player in this, maybe a dark horse. So could be interesting. And that would certainly be a big addition to the Mariners for the rest of the season and into the postseason. So kind of a short schedule. Yankees off, as we said, the Mets off, a few other teams off, but we'll continue some big series and start some big series tonight. The Phillies and Atlanta continue their big series. The Mets and the Yankees square off in the Subway Series starting tonight. Also, Minnesota will play Milwaukee, and Texas and Seattle will continue their series. So the other ones, you could have to probably pay me a lot of money to go see. So that's probably a little rude, but it is what it is.
Well, and the Subway Series starts tonight. Was that what you just mentioned?
Yeah, it does. Tonight, I believe they're in. Where are they? I forget where they're playing.
They're in Shea.
They are in Shea. Yep, very good. So interesting series, big one for the Mets. I think the Mets. This is obviously all the series are big for the Mets with the small lead they have over the Braves, but it's important for the Yankees and the Mets because this is always a huge rivalry when they play, and obviously when both teams are in first place, fans start to think about that Subway Series in October, which we haven't seen. We've seen one time with these two teams in 2000. And it would be interesting to see it again. But again, a lot of work to do for both teams to get there. And your team will have something to say about that as likely as well at some point.
Well, and I think the Mets do what the Mets do, and they Mets it up.
Yeah, well, what? Your Met fans pretty much feel the same way you do. It's amazing. I talk to Met fans that come on my show, and all of them are waiting for the sky to fall. And they're about to get some good news. DeGrom's going to start. I believe it'll be his last rehab start, assuming everything goes well in AAA, I think Wednesday night. He had a good outing last week. I think he had 10 strikeouts in 5 innings, if I'm not mistaken, after a little bit of a scare with some shoulder woos. So that'll give them a little boost. They're going to make a move. I'm not excited about the moves they made so far. I mean, they've traded for this guy. I don't even have his name in front of me. I apologize. And I know I'm going to be rude to this poor guy, but it looks like me in a baseball uniform. And that can't be a guy you really can count on to get you to the playoffs. What's this guy's name from Pittsburgh? Vogelson?
Oh, yeah. I have an idea on who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a lefty. He's got a bunch of home runs. He can't hit lefties at all, so he's only going to be a left-handed DH. He can't play in the field. And, this is not and he got booed his first at bat with the Mets last Friday night, I think. He struck out, and he got a taste of New York right away when the fans booed him his first at bat. So,
welcome to New York, buddy.
Right.
Lose some weight. Stop eating them sandwiches.
We're behind you all the way until you strike out one.
Yeah, exactly.
Mets won't be done, though. Mets will make a couple other moves. I had to, Carlos, the Mad New Yorker, and I got into a debate about this. He thinks the Mets are going big. I don't think they have the assets to make big trades or the stomach. I think they're going to bring in a Nelson Cruz maybe to be the right-handed side of that DH. Maybe bring in another starting pitcher, but not any big names I don't think you're going to see come to the Mets at the trade deadline here. We'll see. It's just a gut feeling I have, and, trying to keep my ear to the ground. How about the Phillies? As we go into this week, we started to see some trades. Do you think the Phillies, I know we've talked about this a couple times, any more feeling one way or the other on what they might do?
They're going to go after mid guys that they would be able to get fairly cheap from teams like the A's or like the Royals. I don't expect that they're going to be able to make a big splash because they just don't have the assets to be able to trade away. So I feel that they're going to rely more on their injuries coming back,
right,
to help. And there is a pitcher that has been lighting it up, and he's lit it up in both, I think, single A and double A. And I think they're going to maybe fast track him this year to maybe try to get him up here to give some bullpen help to see, they're going to put him in triple A and see if he can do the same thing he was doing there. But he's got like a 1.35 or something around that ERA. In a number of games in 2 leagues, and they're going to see if it's a real thing and bring him up. I like that they are being a little bit more aggressive with some of their talent in the minors, rather than letting them sitting there until they can't do it anymore and get frustrated with baseball in general, and then they bring them up and then they're not worth it anymore.
I know you talked about this probably on this show, and I know you talked about it on your own show yesterday, but I wanted to touch on Castellanos a little bit with you and your thoughts on his outburst and your thoughts on him going forward in the second half. And by the way, I think it's interesting on a day that Paul Sorvino and we've run into a series of guys who played wise guys in the movies have passed away, that Castellanos happens to be in the news so much. I don't know why I tie those together, but I'll probably offend another group of people, but I'm sorry. But I just found it interesting. Anyway, I wanted to get your thoughts on this little situation. Is it a little situation, and do you expect him to rebound a bit in the second half?
Well, I don't know about the rebound part. My thoughts is that I only need him to be hot for a month and a half, and that month and a half has got to start in September. So really, if as long as the Phillies are continuing to do what they're doing, if he's being very slow, good players always seem to get back up to where their average is, and when they move, like they say, he said it himself, even in this interview that got crazy, was that when he went to the Reds, he had a tough first season, and at the end of the season, he started to come on. And then the next season,
I wanted to ask you about that, though. I mean, as a fan, is that okay with you? I mean, it sounds like an excuse to me, but I'm not saying it's not a reality. It takes some adjustment time, but half a season, a whole season. Do you buy that? Do you want to hear that out of your guy?
Well, like I said, I don't care as long as he starts to fix it and gets better at the right time. Like I said, all he's got to do is have a good month, and everything is forgotten about.
Yeah.
You have a good month in September. Well, what happened in August and July and June? Nothing. It don't matter to me because you came on at the right time, and that's what's really most important. And I feel the same way with JT. I feel like JT has been underperforming this year. I mean, we have Harper that's not been in the lineup. We have Segura that's not been in the lineup. I think that if you get them and you turn up their batting averages, both JT's and Castellanos, like 10 points.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a lot of at-bats at this point. So moving up 10 points in their batting average is going to be a significant jump in September.
Yeah.
And that's all that I think that we need. So, after listening, and to touch base about the media in Philadelphia and what had happened with all of that, there was, first off, that was supposedly all off the record. The fact that it wasn't was a little interesting to me as well. But I felt that the question could have been asked a lot differently than it was. And the fact that he didn't bring it all out at once, instead of just saying, "Hey, did you hear? Did you hear the fans boo?" And it was Jim Salisbury. Jim Salisbury is a fantastic beat reporter and a good writer, and so I'm not maligning him for this, but it was interesting. Like I thought he could have worded the question a little bit better, and it wouldn't have been. When I heard the full version of this, he did ask the question, the caveat to the question, how do you feel about this? Like that was really what he was trying to get. Like,
Yeah.
how do you feel about the boos? Like, obviously you're hearing them. Like he should have said, obviously you're hearing the boos. Instead of asking, so are you hearing the boos? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, come on. It's like obviously when a player like don't be smart ass with the players. That's what it turned out to be. He was being a little bit of a smart ass, and the player bit back because hey, he doesn't like what's going on with him either.
Of
And
course he.
then of course it made national news
Yeah.
because anything in Philly, anytime something in Philly happens where somebody gets a little upset, uh, it's bigger than life. Snowballs came out and Santa was on the field.
Some similarities and parallels here to the Gallo situation that we talked about. Going to a tough, it's a different city, Philadelphia, than Cincinnati, obviously, right? Similar to Arlington and New York City. So there's some similarities there. And with that said, I would trade you Joey Gallo for Castellanos straight up right now.
Yeah, and why don't you just give me Chapman while you're at it?
Yeah, if you want him, he's yours.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I that ain't happening.
Gosh, a couple other quick notes in Major League Baseball. The Major League Baseball Players Union rejected the the league's proposal for an international draft again, which leaves the qualifying offer system in place for now. They've been arguing over this now for a couple of years. It was part of the lockout issues and the one that didn't get resolved before they settled that. And it doesn't look like it's going to get resolved anytime soon, as they're pretty far apart in what they want to happen here.
What is like? I understand that anybody who comes from overseas or any international place, they get to choose whatever team they want to go to.
Some do. Like Japan still, I believe Japan still has the posting system where you've got to pay the team. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago. They got to pay the team that the player belongs to for just the right to talk to them. So there's a little bit, but anybody else, you're coming from Dominican, yeah, pretty much you can go sign where you want right now, which the players want that to continue. And
I'm surprised that Cuba doesn't try to strike a deal with Major League Baseball, and I guess they can't because it's in the U.S. a lot of it, but
correct.
But I mean, I feel like some of the embargo stuff has just gotten really antiquated and old. Obviously, we're dealing with China and they're communists. So, like, to put an embargo on Cuba, to keep this embargo on Cuba is kind of ridiculous to me, especially when Cuba has their biggest asset is the fact that these guys all play baseball. If you live in Cuba, man, woman, child, you've played baseball. And, they could probably make some money from some of these players as long as they were able to go in and out. And I just feel like embargoes are no longer worth it, especially for a country named, called Cuba. You know what I mean? It's just like, why not just lift these things? And
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, we need to get the ball players, we need to get the rum, we need to get the important stuff, the cigars and stuff out of Cuba. So let's end the embargo. And players shouldn't have to, if you're like El Duque, Orlando Hernandez, you shouldn't have to ride a raft or a luxury yacht. There's somewhere in between. He probably came over here. I love that story about he came over on a raft, but it wasn't really a raft. It was more like a luxury yacht, but
right.
Details shouldn't get in the way of a good story, right?
Well, and not only that, I mean, I tell you what their biggest money maker is going to be once they stop this embargo.
What's that?
Importing the cars. Those cars are they're going to make tons of money on the cars that are still from the 1950s.
Oh gosh, right.
They're going to have 850,000 miles on them, but they wound up having to buy all the old parts to these cars because they can't get any other cars in there.
Yeah, they could remake The Godfather 2, which a lot of it took place in Cuba, and you wouldn't have to really change much because it looks the same exactly as when they filmed it in 1972 or whatever it was. So.
It kind of looks like Miami would look if they actually gave it a coat of paint. Because I feel like Miami has let itself go a little bit, and if you go down there, it just looks like the city needs a coat of paint.
That's
I'm not trying to talk bad about Miami because I do have some family and friends that live down that area, but it's just it's not the way it used to be. It's lost its
No, you have
sizzle.
South Beach, and you have the rest of Miami in my mind, right? And there's some scary areas. Where the Orange Bowl used to be. I don't know if you ever went to the Orange Bowl, but
I
with
have
the Patriot Dolphin games there back in the 80s, I was afraid for my life. I mean, that was the worst part of town. The best thing they ever did was get out of the Orange Bowl. So, anyway, everybody does think Miami's this great destination place. Yeah, it's great if you can afford South Beach. Other than that,
Well, yeah, and I tell you, I'm me being somebody who likes a cocktail every once in a while, I don't like going to South Beach to drink. They give you a little plastic cup for $16. I ain't interested.
right?
The booze costs the same amount of money, up here as it does down there. In fact, it's probably cheaper down there because it's closer to get some of that booze. And you're not going to give me a little plastic cup. You can't even go in a glass.
I can tell you the taxes are lower on that stuff there. So I guarantee you the overhead is much cheaper for places in Florida than it is in New York. So
right.
I agree with you there. Quick shout out to the Hall of Fame inductees from this past weekend. I like a lot of these guys. I'm not overexcited about necessarily their Hall of Fame credentials, but all of them were good ball players. And kudos to them. It's not, their fault, but it's become kind of the Hall of Very Good. Jim Cock gets in, classy guy. Bud Fowler, an old timer, gets in. Minnie Minoso, a really old timer, played in 5 decades, and one of the first Latin American players to get into Major League Baseball after the color barrier was broken, which is one of his claim to fame. He's a good ball player, but again, Hall of Fame worthy. Tony Oliva, if he played an entire career, would have been one of the greats, but his knees gave out, and in a short time, he had some great seasons, but so did Don Mattingly, not even close to getting in the Hall of Fame. So Gil Hodges, longtime Dodger and longtime favorite of the people who think he's been unjustly kept out of the Hall of Fame. He gets in the old timers ballot, and so does Buck O'Neil, which Buck O'Neil, what I would say, is actually certainly worthy of this from the Negro Leagues performances that he had, and great ambassador for baseball right up until he passed away. Gosh, I think in his late 90s. And lastly, David Ortiz, who was a very polarizing figure in this, because to me, David Ortiz's numbers you can't argue with. But if David Ortiz is in the Hall of Fame, so does Barry Bonds have to be there. Roger Clemens has to be there, and some of the other guys that we talk about during this steroid era. So we'll see whether this opens up, the opportunities for those guys or not going forward. And to me, you should put them in, Pags, and just put an asterisk, or not an asterisk, but just tell the whole story. Pete Rose, same thing. Pete Rose, great player, all-time hit leader, bet on baseball and banned for life.
And that's it. So it's interesting because Pete Rose is going to be part of the ceremonies on August 7th in Philadelphia, was they honor the 1980 World Series team, and they got permission from Major League Baseball to allow Pete Rose to come, and so it's going to be a fairly big deal here on August 7th. Hopefully, I can get back in time from Canton, Ohio, to go to that game, because obviously it's happening right during the same time, where it's like I got to race back here to make sure that I can get my face paint on to get out there and hopefully get a picture with Pete. I'm sure he'd love to see me with all the face paint. That all being said, I'm wondering, because obviously
that'd be an interesting altercation. Get that on film.
Oh, I will. That I would absolutely do so.
Or video. Sorry, I just dated myself there. Film.
But I wonder, like, obviously they're waiting for Pete Rose to die, and I feel like that the year he's dead, they'll put him in the Hall of Fame posthumously. And I feel that once that happens, they're not going to have the opportunity. Everybody else is going to make it into the Hall of Fame, and they
Yeah.
might as well just do it all in one year. I mean, realistically, you should have McGuire, Bonds. I mean, Sammy Sosa, even. You know what I mean? All of those guys could all go in 1 year, knock it out, get it done, put them all in there, and make it one big deal, and then you can just get past it. I feel like baseball, and first off, the Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame is not the MLB Hall of Fame. It
That's
should
correct.
be its own entity. The
Mhm.
fact that these writers are holding these players hostage, it's, you know, there's a reason why people don't like the media a lot of the time, and I
Agreed.
feel like this is a part of it. So they need to just get up off their high horse, let these guys in, put them in there. You don't need to make a new wing, be like, hey, this is the steroid era, because I tell you, they saved baseball at a time when baseball needed saving.
That's a great point. It's a great point. And you know what? They are hypocritical. You can't put a guy like David Ortiz in with his rumored past, or not rumored in some instances, and not allow these other guys to get in as well. And again, I don't condone what they did. I say let them in, tell their own story, because that whole era is, you can't, if they can't get in, nobody from that era can get in, because we don't know who did it and who didn't. We just
Right.
don't.
In fact, I remember, I absolutely remember in '93 when somebody asked Lenny Dykstra, how is it that you guys are doing the things that you're doing? And he said it right into the camera, right on the news. It's really good vitamins.
Yeah.
He wasn't lying.
Oh, gosh. Too funny. One last quick story I have in baseball. We'll take a quick break and we'll get to some other news. A Mickey Mantle mint condition baseball card is going to go to auction this week, and the rumors are that it's going to exceed the famous Honus Wagner card, the 1909 Honus Wagner card that sold for $6.6 million a year ago, and that's kept going up every time it gets auctioned off. And there's rumors that this Mantle card may go for as much as $10 million. Me, I don't get it, but God bless you if you want to buy a Mickey Mantle card for $10 million. And, I don't know.
I assume it's a 10. I assume it's rated the 10, because that's the only way that these cards get the way they do.
It's this 1952 card. So I don't follow this part of the game too much, other than when I see a story like this. I just don't get it. You got to have a lot of money to say, let me give you, here's $10 million. I'd be losing the card. Jesus.
So there was a card very recently that just went to auction that fetched like a couple $1 million. And just so happens that I have one of those cards. And I was like, well, hey, if it just got like a couple $1 million for this, maybe I should go get this rated. And the truth of the matter is that you could pay for the rating. If I had $1,200 to send to Beckett's and get the glass and put it in the glass and have them do that and do all those things where they would break it open and give me the 10 rating, like that's what you got to do. You got to pay for the 10 rating. That's all it is, and. Okay, and then I could just turn around and auction that off and hopefully get the same amount of money they did. But they don't want to give out that many 10s.
When I was a kid, nobody talked about this stuff in the 60s and 70s. I must have had 10,000 baseball cards that just disappeared over the years. I probably lost them all, in the flip game. I don't know if you're old enough to play
flip game or in the spokes of your bike.
Oh, the spokes of my bike, correct. And who knows? I probably had a freaking Mickey Mantle card worth $5 million in the spokes of my bike, probably. So who knew?
A little bit of mud on it won't hurt anything.
Who knew? I probably financed a lot of college educations and retirements with the cards that I gave away over the years. So anyway,
understood.
Let's take a quick break. We're going to take a look at the Dream Ride experience, which Northeast Streaming Sports is a big sponsor of this year, and we'll be there. Philly sports guy will be there with his doing some TikToks, and you can actually book some cameo time with the Philly sports guy that day too, which we'll talk about as we lead up to that. But let's take a quick look at these quick messages, and we'll be right back.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, Brooklyn. Hey, get any.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And we're back, and I'm Keith Engel, joined by the Philly Sports Guy this morning, and you're watching Start It Up. And we're going to get into some other news around the world of sports. And Pags, you got some football news we can maybe touch on and see where we go from there. Camps are opening.
Yeah, today is the day where if you haven't been opened yet, you come on in. Everybody gets into camp. They get their playbooks. They get their physicals and get started. Get their room assignments. Time to get working for this year. It's the start of football season officially for all of the other teams that were not called the Raiders or the Jaguars. Couple of other stories that came out this week. A contingent of Murray's new deal is that the deal requires him to do 4 hours a week of independent film study. Now this is getting a lot more play than I think that both the Cardinals and Murray wanted it to, because obviously somebody starts reading it and they go, hold on, he's required per contract to do 4 hours of film study, independent. Now, I wonder how they prove that. Because he can go home and say, yeah, I'm looking at, what was it, Jamarcus Russell? They gave him blank tapes to say, okay, you go and do your film study to let us know what you think of these videos, and he'd come back and be like, yeah, I see it, I'm ready to go, let's go. And of course there was nothing on those tapes. So they were,
I guess
never even turned it in.
I think what I find more interesting than, and that's interesting part of it, yes, but more interesting is, why do you put this in there? I mean, the implication to me is he was a bit lazy in his homework last year, and it contributed to the team not doing as well as they could. And, it's pretty hard not to read that into this, right?
And then my question is 4 hours enough?
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a lot to me.
No, I feel like that. I mean, I always thought that Monday was film day. You come back in, you're not working out. It's really a day off, but you're not taking the day off because you're spending the time going over the film and talking about the games and stuff like that, your own film and the other team's film. And then you got to go over a couple of different games from the other team because you want to see certain trends that they're doing. Yeah, obviously, if you know what it is that anticipate, when you start to see a look and be like, hey, I saw that on TV. Yeah, maybe this is what's about to happen. And then you go and execute. So it's a process that they're doing this. And this seems to me like to be something that Arizona holds on to if they want to get out of the contract.
I agree.
So,
it's close to a moral clause in the thing, right? If you misbehave, you're out. We can void your contract. This one, hey, if you come in as stupid as you were last year, maybe that's harsh.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like he's got all of the tools out there to be able to be a really good quarterback and to bring this team to much closer to a championship than what they've done. They have not won a playoff game. They do have arguably the best wide receiver in the league. still. I know he was hurt last year. They have a very good tight end in Zach Ertz that I know, personally, kind of, and it's just the defense is kind of strong. It's just they started out 11-1 and they couldn't get anything beyond that. So,
we talk about I talk about leaders a lot, and this team screams for a leader quarterback to take them to the next level. Because as you just alluded to, that there's talent there surrounding him, and it's all up to him to mature and become that leader.
So, moving on, because again, whiny quarterbacks are not really things I want to talk about. The Packers extend Matt LaFleur.
Wait a minute. You don't want to talk about whiny quarterbacks and you go to the Green Bay Packers next?
Well, I'm talking about the coach. I ain't talking about their crybaby quarterback,
all right.
who's getting $50 million a year and can't get past the championship game. Seems to always lose to San Francisco. Whereas, and I always love it when teams lose to their childhood favorites. Matty Ice has got the same problem with the Eagles. Can't beat the Eagles. Just has the problem. So the Green Bay Packers, since the GM has gotten there, they've gone 45-19-1, and that includes 39-10 with LaFleur on the sideline. So they said, you know what, that's good for you to get another, get a contract extension. So they're happy over there about that. Let me make sure I'm not killing his guy's name. Roquan Smith and the Bears are unhappy with each other. He's not going to camp until the contract gets figured out. There's going to be a number of that. And then, to touch base a little bit about somebody who you might feel a certain way about, Danny Amendola retires after 13 seasons.
I have some fond memories of Danny Amendola. Yes, I do. And better than Wes Welker, believe it or not, because he didn't drop a ball in a big spot in the Super Bowl. But yes, good career. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he had some big moments, and have a great retirement, Danny.
Yep. And then Orlando Brown's not going to camp until the Chiefs figure it out. And, here's what one of these stories that I love to read about. Cowboys McCarthy not worried about job security. It's not a story. I hope they keep him forever.
As you should. And you know what? Anytime I see a coach is defending his job security, I see a coach who's worried about his job security. Just saying.
Yeah, I love when they give coaches a vote of confidence.
Yep.
Because that's usually the writing on the wall.
He's about to spend a lot more time with his family. Yes.
Yeah, and I didn't think he was a good coach before. I know when I saw his opening, I still can't get the picture out of my head from when you had, Jerry Jones and him right next to each other during the press conference. And he looked like he was in a hot dog casing, with that suit that was ready to burst. And then I kept thinking of where you had David Spade and what was that comedian? Chris Farley.
Chris Farley.
Yeah, that is the picture that I can't ever seem to get out of my head. And I feel like that he has been. I mean, I know this guy's got a Super Bowl ring as a coach, but I didn't. I think that they won in spite of him, not because of him. And I'm sure he's got some football knowledge, but I'm glad that he's the Cowboys coach, and I think the Cowboys are, going to be just like they are with him.
Yeah, probably a good idea. There's one football story I want to touch on with you that I saw because I have strong feelings about these things, or mixed feelings about these things, I guess. The Chicago Mariners proposed a dome for Soldier Field. I'm not, football to me was made to be played outside. I don't like domes. I hate them. They wanted to build one in Foxborough, and I said, I hope they don't. I understand you get to get Super Bowls in the Northeast. You might get a Super Bowl in Chicago if you put a dome on the stadium, but is it worth that to take away the tradition of football? I feel like it should be played in the elements, and you take away, part of your home field advantage late in the season when it's cold and windy in Chicago. What are your thoughts on this? Not here, but anywhere.
So I agree with you to a certain extent. I feel that, being at a few of the games that I've been at with the Eagles where it has been 0 degrees Fahrenheit or close to it, like 6 degrees. I'll never forget the last game of the regular season in 2017 against the Cowboys, where it was nothing game because neither team wanted to play.
Yeah.
It was just ugly, and the Cowboys wound up winning that game just by 2 field goals because, again, it was freezing. Like it was like I went into the club and it was so cold, it was freezing in there. Like and I was trying to warm up some because it was just, and this was before I was painting my face for
Yeah.
every game, especially at home games. But so, but if that's going to be the caveat, I mean, I would love for Philadelphia to host a Super Bowl. I feel that, and I feel that the reason why we can't is because it's outdoors. They
Why-
did this outdoor one in New York,
Yeah,
where,
well,
of course, it rained.
well,
It rained in that Super Bowl, and they were lucky because it wasn't that cold. It was like 45 degrees and rain.
It rained in Miami when the Colts and Bears played years ago too, so it could rain anywhere.
Right. So, but rain is different. But freezing cold, is a different scenario. And trying to put Tampa Bay, who plays in the warm weather, and Miami, that plays in the warm weather, in a very cold Super Bowl. Imagine. Let's think about this: L.A. and Miami
No,
go to the Super Bowl, and they got to play up in New York, and it's snowing. That would be an hysterical game to watch because neither one of those teams are ready for that type of
I
stuff.
think it'd be awesome as long as my team wasn't. My team was there; they'd be used to those conditions anyway. But
Right. So I feel that if they want to put, they obviously are looking for a couple of reasons. One, they want to try to entice a Super Bowl to come over there. Two, it gets really cold, and the players don't want to play in the cold either. I mean, it's we're at a time now where playing at sub-zero weather sucks for everybody.
yeah,
And that's what I kind of think. So, I mean, you have a dome up there. You could still, like, it would have to be a retractable dome, something that opens and closes. First off, how are you going to do that to Soldier Field? What are you going to close Soldier Field down for a couple of years so that happens? Do you remember Minnesota playing over a Minnesota college? Minnesota University for that season?
Yeah.
I mean, they had some bitter games. But then you got like Buffalo, where what was it that just recently that they played in where the Patriots didn't throw the ball but 3 times.
the wind blew like 60 miles an hour the whole game. Yeah.
So players don't want to play in that,
and fans don't want to watch it. And I get it; it's tough for the fans. The only thing and again, I know that we're in a different time and there's a lot more money involved and stuff. These things all matter. I think about some of the great moments in history that would never have happened without it. We wouldn't have had the Ice Bowl in '66. There was a sneaker game. I think your team might have been involved in a sneaker game. I'm not so sure. Way back in the, 50s, where there was ice and nobody could stand up, and the coach went out and got the team a bunch of sneakers at halftime, and that's what worked. I know the Giants were involved. I thought the Eagles might be. I don't remember.
They could be. I don't know enough about that story.
San Diego playing the Bengals in a championship game, and the wind chill's 52 below zero. And it was just, they were classic fun games. I know they're not, it's not optimal conditions, but some of those games you never would have talked about again without the weather conditions. So
right, but they also when you go to those types of games, and I mean, I remember back at the vet days, they would get anybody who wanted to come. They were paying people, minimum wage was $7.50 an hour, and they gave you a shovel. They didn't give you gloves or anything, though. And there was one guy who lost all of his fingers from frostbite because trying to make $7.50 an hour, and he wound up the Eagles wound up getting sued and having to pay a little bit, even though they had releases saying, hey, we're paying you $7.50 an hour just to shovel some snow, and if anything happens to you, tough.
Well, if you did away with snow in Philadelphia Stadium, though, the fans would lose one of their great weapons of voicing their displeasure as well. So there's that to consider too, right?
Well,
so.
if you ask Jimmy Johnson, they're saying, well, that's all right. We carry batteries anyway. So
right. Anyway. Let's move on to the NBA a little bit. The only story that I think piqued my great. There goes my screen. The Boston Celtics have creeped into the Kevin Durant sweepstakes here. Sources say they're fair. They're maybe closer than other teams. Certainly, the Nets are asking for guys that the Celtics aren't going to give up. Jason Tatum certainly is not getting traded in this. They don't want to trade Marcus Smart, which seems to be one of the big holdups right now. Is that the Nets want him back, and also Jaylen Brown and draft picks. But Boston may be closer to getting this deal than some of the other teams, and I'd be shocked if the Nets made this trade within their division. They did it once with the Celtics and got absolutely screwed, obviously, as we know, when they got Garnett and Paul Pierce, and they were, their games were done. But you see this happening at all?
Possibly, probably more than likely, because I think that they're just unhappy. And do you really want to have this of what this could carry going into the season? I still think that does not get done. They're going to want more back in those draft picks, and I don't know why the Celtics wouldn't want to give them the draft picks, because ultimately, the Celtics are kind of set to be good for a number of years. So giving 4 first-round picks or 5 first-round picks, maybe that 5th year is going to start to be a little bit of an issue, because you're not able to replenish the coffers there with younger talent. But ultimately, it's, I don't know. I don't think Durant goes anywhere.
No, I know you said that. I just don't know how he can come back. When you get these points, it's very difficult to bring these players back. But we'll see. They may have to keep him, because they're not going to get what the ultimate price that they're holding out for. And I said that all along. They were not going to get fair value for Kevin Durant. So
but they mentioned Jaylen Brown in the mix now, which probably entices them a little bit more. And obviously, since Curry called out Simmons and said, "Hey, are you coming to play there, big guy?" And we're going to see if he actually comes to play, or if he's going to be complaining that that fishing boat accident that just tweaked his back, and he just can't seem to do it anymore.
Yeah, it might be a year or so. He's got to rest that up. I'm not sure.
So, and how about that? I heard a little bit of a rumor that the Knicks are in the Russell Westbrook, possibility. What are your thoughts?
Only one word comes into my mind. Why? This team does not need Russell Westbrook. At this point in his career, I don't think that helps this team at all. Short term, long term, one day, I just don't see how it helps.
Tell you, I would love that. I would love that, because I tell you, I know firsthand how soft Russell Westbrook is.
Yep.
I got to Russell Westbrook when he was in Washington, and I've told this story before. He just could not handle it. He given me dirty eye and look, and that was when only 1,500 people were in the arena, and they heard me across the entire arena, the entire game, not sitting down, not shutting up, doing the Darryl chant for Russell. When he had to shoot a foul shot, he had to look directly at me. He just had such walking off the court all dejected, and then the kid threw the popcorn on him, and that's what got the story.
I remember that story. Well, there's a couple other things the NBA that'll hold till another day. So what do you got? What do you got elsewhere? NHL? Anything you want to chat about there?
I didn't even really look at the NHL, because there's a couple of players that still haven't done. I mentioned it yesterday about how there's still a couple of free agents that haven't re-signed. There's not really any stories that really make up, other than the fact that the Flames are just, I feel like right now the Flames are ready to tank, because they had to give away a couple of their best players, and now what do they have when you look behind you? You just had 2 players, one you traded, another one that just left. You signed for a total of $19 million a year, and you're left with really ultimately nothing. So I feel bad for these types of franchises. I mean, the reason why Calgary, I mean, who would want to really be in Calgary? It's on the West Coast. It's cold there. It's kind of like Seattle, except it's a lot colder and it's snow instead of rain. So I kind of imagine that gets on you after a little while. But there's a reason why they have a hockey team up there. Some people like it, and they do actually have a Stanley Cup in their coffers. We'll see if they can actually come up, and I just hope they don't get blessed with the very first pick in the draft, because obviously Chicago's going to be tanking for the same thing. I feel like the Flyers are about to do the same thing, and there is a guy coming out this year in the draft who's supposed to be one of those generational talents, like a Connor McDavid. So we'll see if who wins that sweepstakes, but there's going to be a lot of bad hockey leading to that.
Yeah, that's the problem there. Any other news stories that pique your interest before? I got a couple if you don't. If not.
Well, no, why don't you go, Bouts? Because the only thing I really wanted to talk about, I was still watching the track and field championships and some of the things that I kind of saw from that. But beyond that, it's, that's not really newsworthy stuff.
Okay, well, we can always throw those in anytime. A couple of things in golf real quick. Sergio Garcia becomes one of the first guys to back out of the LIV Golf Invitational Series. He's changed his mind, decided to stay on the European tour. He did not resign or turn in his card. He had some conversations with John Rahm, has decided against it due to some of the things I've talked about. So we'll see what happens there. Kerry Webb held off Annika Sorenstam to win the senior LPGA tournament over this past weekend. And Darren Clark had won the senior British Open, which is a big deal over there, and certainly a big deal for Darren Clark. Darren Clark is very, very big in Europe and in England in general, not just in stature, but in stature, if you know what I mean. But a fun guy to watch play golf, smoking on a stogie all the way around the course, a lot of fun. And a former Ryder Cup champion as well. Also, he beat Patrick Carrington in that senior open. So a couple of notes there in the world of hockey. I'm sorry, in the world of golf. Hockey. I'm thinking of Happy Gilmore, apparently. And what else? I guess we can throw in a couple of actually, we don't have any WNBA scores from last night, do we? They did not play any games, so there's nothing to report there. I'm about done for today, I guess. So we've covered a lot of stuff. And I don't know where that noise is coming from once again, but
that's probably from the MLB.
I got it. We got it. It just starts up by itself. It won't play, and then it just starts up. So
right.
I guess that'll do it for us today, Pegs. Good show, good stuff. Major League Baseball dominates the news, but it's July, and football will start to creep in, as we saw today. That'll start getting its fair share on this show, I can tell you that. So.
Well, and especially next week, where I'm going to be reporting live from Canton, Ohio.
That's right. Good point. Pags will be traveling out to Canton for the Hall of Fame game, correct? And the inductions?
That is correct. I'm going to go see my main man, Dick Vermeil, go over there, and he's going in as a Philadelphia Eagle, even though he won a Super Bowl with the Rams.
I think we should start a poll. How long into his acceptance speech will Dick Vermeil start to cry? And I love Dick Vermeil, and I love that he wears his heart on his sleeve. There's nothing not to like about Dick Vermeil. Love the guy. As a guy who never coached any of my teams, I love to watch him. Great guy. Good person.
I think he's hardened as he's gotten older, so I'm going to say about 8 minutes.
8 minutes. All right, that's kind of high, but we'll talk more about it before we get there. So that'll be fun. And I don't know if you're going to be doing the show, but maybe we can do at least some remotes that day if you're not able to do it live. We'll talk more about it as we get closer. So
yeah, I'm going to definitely try to make some things happen out there. I am going to have all the stuff with me so that we will be able to report live, and you'll get to see me up close and personal along with everybody else that'll be there. So it's going to be a very interesting time.
Excellent. Live reporting from the Hall of Fame. You can't do better than that. You don't get that on ESPN, I don't think. Well, maybe you do.
I mean, maybe you do, but
we'll have it here on Northeast Streaming Sports as well as listen, we're only about a month away, maybe 5 weeks from real college football as well. So we'll have a lot of stuff starting. Guys, hope you had a good time today. We got you as much news as we can. Keith Engel for the Philly Sports Guy right here in Northeast Streaming Sports. You've been watching Start It Up. Have a great day.